Hello everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Trinity Stamps video. Today we are going to be making a 5x7 card using the Pumpkin Bouquet stamp set. I love this. There is the matching die, also one for the words. We're going to be bringing in the Grateful die. I love this one. And we're also bringing in the Foliage Flare stencil. And of course, because we're making a 5x7, I have the A7 Modern Embossed dies and some fun embellishments, which we'll talk about later. So I've got a piece of some turquoise cardstock that I've cut down to 5x7. I'm going to tack this down to my Tonic platform and then use my magnets to put my stencil over the top. I love that this is bigger than the 5x7. We're going to be using the new Blending Buddy, and I've got some different colors of ink. This this stencil is 2 pieces, so I'm going to use one color for one piece, and then I'm going to bring in another color for the other piece. Now, if you haven't tried the new Blending Buddy, I know there's so many out on the market. This is a great one, especially if you have issues with your hands. Now, as I get older, I'm definitely starting to develop some arthritis in my fingers, and I find that because this Blending Buddy is so soft and it's like very dense in a sense, it picks up a lot of great color, so I don't have to work as hard to get the blend, which I love. You know, if you could do less work, I'm all about it. So now we're going to bring in that second stencil, and it lines up perfectly and very easily because we've got those embossed edges. And I'll bring in my second color. I just wiped off my Blending Buddy because I'm going to kind of keep one per color family. And so I'll do this one just as kind of like my turquoise, so it'll work perfectly. Just cleaned it off just a little bit. Then I brought in that next color. Let's pull that stencil away and you can see how that looks. I love how pretty that is with those 2 colors on there. Isn't that just gorgeous? Ooh, it just gets me all excited. All right, so now we're going to do our stamping, and this is a beautiful stamp, that Pumpkin Bouquet. I'm going to stamp that down with some blackout ink onto some Express It cardstock. I have to do it a couple times just to make sure that I have a good stamped image. That's where the Misty comes in beautifully. And then I'm going to bring in my Olo markers. These are just some alcohol markers, newer to the market. These work great. And I'm going to do my best to put all of those colors up on the screen for you so you can see what it is I am doing. But any of your alcohol markers would work fine. I just like to pick colors that are, well, these make it easy because the families are, I mean, pretty simple. But I like to, for my oranges, sometimes I'll bring in some browns, and in this case it kind of is. So this is a lighter or a darker orange, kind of getting into that light brown. And then this is full-on brown, this O2.7. And it does look very like super contrasty there. But then I'm going to work backwards, bring in that O2.5 and then go back in with that O2.4. And then I can blend that out really nicely. But then I have that nice dark contrast, which is super cool. And then we're going to come in with a little bit more of that 2.7, and then I'll come in with that 2.5 and blend that. Just wanting to add a little bit more shadowing and shading up there because there will be some wherever you've got some overlap with all that pretty stuff coming out of the pumpkin. And then we'll move on to coloring the top of the pumpkin with our same colors. And like I said, I like to do lightest to darkest. That's just what usually works best for me. But obviously, you do what works for you. I've seen so many great colorists do dark to light, and I haven't quite perfected that. But it's also because I haven't worked with it a whole lot, only because this does work for me. I feel like I tend to use a lot less ink when I do it this way. All right, then we'll bring in some yellows. We've got some Y2.2. I'm going to bring this color in as well for the corn. You won't see me color that, but it's just, I'm going to slap down one color for that. We got Y2.3, and then we'll bring in one more color for a little bit more contrast, which is the Y0 2.5. And I thought that was really pretty. And then I'll just bring in a really dark brown for the center of our sunflower. I don't know what it's like in your area, but in the mornings around here, it is definitely starting to feel like fall. By the afternoons, we're back up to almost 90 degrees, so definitely not fall feeling there, but the mornings are so beautiful, and it's, I've got the house all decorated. I did it at the beginning of September. I was ready. Yeah, definitely ready for some fall, even if it didn't feel like it. Okay, bringing in some BG, which is some blue-green, 7.3, and I figured I definitely needed to bring in colors like this since we're using like a a turquoise background, and this has kind of been the colors that I've been falling into for fall, just using those turquoise and the orange. It's just such a pretty contrast, bringing in some browns, and oh, I love it. And so now we're bringing in some greens. We've got G1.7, and just trying to make sure that I add that color in all kinds of different areas so everything just kind of ties. We've got G1.8, which is definitely a little bit darker, and then we'll blend that out. And then bringing in some more orange for this acorn in the top of our pumpkin. So OR 4.4, OR 4.7. Blend it. And you'll notice I did that one little pumpkin as more of a light gray color, or I guess a warm gray. We've got BG 0.8. Then we'll bring in our last bits of color, which is Y8.6. That's a really pretty green. And Y8.7. And then we'll blend that. And then once we're done with that, we're going to be ready to bring in the matching die. Like I said, there are 2 dies for this set, one for the pumpkin and one for the words. And I didn't want this one to necessarily be a Thanksgiving card yet, so I'm going to use Grateful. And I didn't have cardstock to match, so I'm just going to use my alcohol ink or my alcohol markers to color on some white cardstock to make the exact color I want. I was trying to match this to the embellishments that I'm going to use. And those embellishments are new to the store. That is called the Crunchy Leaves, and they're so pretty. You'll see them here in a bit once I start to embellish. But now that I've got that all ready, I'll run that through my die cutting machine, and then I'm going to use some reverse tweezers. I have several pair of reverse tweezers just sitting around my desk because they're so handy. And so here's one pair that I have, and I'm going to use my new Crafty Gluefriend on the back. You don't need to squeeze a lot here because that is a very thin die cut. And then I'll just layer it on top of the shadow. And using liquid glue will give you some wiggle room, which is great. And I love that color. I just think it's pretty. It really pops. And then we need to bring in that A7 Modern Embossed die. You don't have to, but I really love the finishing touch it gives. And my base measures 10 inches by 7 inches, so I'm going to score that at 5 inches, so it will be a 5 by 7. And then I'll use my reverse tweezers once again, along with our Crafty Gluefriend on the back of our die cut Grateful. The font for this is so pretty. Then we're just going to kind of tack that down. And then I need to put down my card panel to my base, so I'll once again bring in our Crafty Gluefriend. This stuff works great. Just put that all over the back. Tack that down to our base. And then I'm going to use some foam tape on the back of our Pumpkin Bouquet. I just really wanted this to pop a little bit more. So then I'll peel off all that release paper. Sometimes it's easier. If I had been thinking, I just would have used my pickup stick to get that off a little better. But I still just went ahead and did it anyway with my hands. Stick that down, and then here's where we're going to bring in our tidy tray, those Crunchy Leaves embellishments. They're such a pretty orange and yellow, and then the centers are that turquoise, so they just all go together so well. I'll use my pickup stick along with our Crafty Gluefriend and tack all those leaves down. They're nice and thin. They're just a real low profile. And they're clay, so they're just so cute. And then once I'm done with that, that's going to finish off our card for today. I love how this turned out, and I hope you do too. If you do, please hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And thank you so much for stopping by today, and I will see you soon in another video. Bye, everybody.